So I have a really big smile on my face because I am sitting next to Susan Zirinsky. She is the GOAT. She started at CBS News when she was 19, 20 years old. As an assistant, she became a producer. Then she became an executive producer. Then she became the mother freaking president of CBS News, first woman to do that. She's been a part of every major special you've ever seen on CBS News, literally in the last 50 years. I could say that.
Well, oh my God. I wish you hadn't said it.
But it's
I'm going to have
true.
you negotiate my next contract. That's definitely happening.
So with me today is Susan Zirinsky, also known as Z to most of us. And we're going to get into a little bit of journalism, the past, the present, and the future. Z, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Well, I have been a longtime admirer of you, and I've loved watching your evolution as a journalist, as covering really hard stories about sexual impropriety and even internal to CBS, which was a really remarkable challenge.
That's how I got the name I Am That Reporter. Because the night, you can look it up, there's a little bit of a backstory, but bottom line is I did receive a text from somebody within the organization at the time. I remember thinking, I really don't want to have to report this, but I did. And that person said something in which then I wanted to respond. So the night that the first words out of my mouth were, I am that reporter, that is how this sort of tagline came to be. But that's for the book. That's for the book.
That could be I think that may be the title of the book.
Okay. Well, we're here to talk about you, but I do appreciate you, what you've done for me and so many people who are still at CBS News. One of the things that I carry into different forums, speeches when I'm talking about journalism is something you've said, and you've said it before when you're speaking, is our job is to show America to itself. When you think about what that phrase means now and how it impacts us, journalists, being able to do the job that they do and make money, I think the question is, how do you do that and monetize it? How do you do that so we can keep doing journalism?
I think that is the critical point. I think journalism, whatever platform it is, linear, cable, streaming, anything, TikTok, YouTube, we are at an inflection point.
Right.
And, Barry Weiss is right. In certain formats, they're not interested in what we're offering. So how do you adapt? And how do you, if you feel that you are giving what is a good report, you've done your homework, you've written a script, you've done the right interviews, but a lot of the country thinks you're biased. You're not biased, but it may be unconscious bias. And by that, I mean, it's time to, and this is the Introduce America to Itself, there is a new mentality that has to really be embraced.
Which is?
Open the aperture so that if you are doing a story, you're doing an investigation, you need to have one person really talk about why the idea that you may be totally ripping to shreds, what was the thinking and why did they think that was a good idea? That will not mute the power of your investigation, but you will hear what was the reasoning behind it. And I think that you're not forfeiting your journalism, you're not forfeiting your morality, you are merely allowing America to hear, okay, this is a takedown of some story. I won't be specific.
Right.
But I found the guy in Capitol Hill. I found the person at the White House whose idea it was to understand what they were thinking. That's the critical part. And also, we now, you cannot pick up anything, or look at anything that isn't the new way that the world will consume news.
And I was going to say to that point, several years ago, I was looking back on an interview that you did at CBS when they did the 5 Minutes with Z. and that was in 2015.
Did
This
you
was
like
on
my
streaming.
split?
Oh, that was great. We'll be sure to we'll try and show the
I
split.
definitely can't.
Put the
I
split in
can't
there,
do that
Scott.
now. Not with a broken leg. Yeah.
But you were saying back then you saw the future as you were talking about the digital, because you were even on streaming talking about that. And our streaming network started streaming service in 2011, 2012, because I got there in 2013. And I remember the then president, David Rhodes, was taking some of the correspondents and putting them on streaming, which then left some room for some of the Newspath correspondents, which is where I came from, which serviced all the affiliates. And we started working on the network side. That said, that was, over 10 years ago. And it was always streaming is the future. Streaming is the future. This is where people are going to go. But people have streamed movies. They've streamed documentaries. Why aren't they streaming news?
Because because we live in an instant world right now. So I don't think there's a single person. I don't care what phone company you use, what service you have bought. I always laugh when I get like a Samsung bulletin of news.
Right.
So all day long, you're getting the headlines. In fact, we have a public that's much more informed about things that are going on. They may not have the length or depth, but they at least know what has happened. And in the world we're living in, the digital side, digital broadcasting, has now evolved. And there's a different form of ingesting news. And that is YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. Although Snapchat doesn't last long enough, which is, whatever. But so.
And Substack.
And
got to talk about Substack.
Well, Substack is the kind of refugee camp where people who have evolved out of what was traditional media are finding a place.
Do you find that scary in terms of what it means for the general networks? Because we have like this large organism that 800 plus people rely on. Jobs, security, stability.
Still feeds the beast.
Still feeds the beast. Still being able to do the thing that, a lot of people dreamed of as kids, or at least in college identified.
And there's a market for it.
This is what they want to do. So tell us about the numbers. And I'm so glad you're here too, because you have insight that just most people don't have, that are behind the scenes. And even now, as the head of See It Now Studios, which is a Paramount production company that you run.
And my secondary job overseeing standards, which was supposed to be interim, which I now think is till death does me part. But other than that,
listen, we all have several jobs, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you love it.
Well, you know what? In
love
the
being
truth
in
on
the
the
mix.
standards, because we're going through so much in delivering how we deliver the news. What's the new format? That I feel like I'm really old, although I don't like to be.
How wise are we now? Are we 74, 75?
I'm not saying that on a podcast. I didn't even want to celebrate my 50th anniversary at CBS. I said no, because
and
people,
that was a couple years ago.
Yeah. Like,
I do the math.
I know, but I'm
but
just
you
like
look
not
great, and
I'm ageless.
with
I
it.
have a lot of energy.
Yes.
Something is wrong in my systemic body because I only sleep 4 hours a night. I get up even with my broken leg.
And now
YouTube.
You told me before we started you're not eating.
I don't eat during the day.
Till the very end?
Till the end of the day.
Is that because you said it? Does it swell? Do you think it has an impact
I was
because
worried
of the
about
surgery
gaining
underneath?
weight because I'm a daily runner.
Okay.
And then when I couldn't run when I broke my leg and have had multiple surgeries.
So vain of you, Susan.
And I'm not even on camera. It's just like, it's like who you want to be. And, athletics has been an important part of my life. But
the numbers, though, that you said there's still a market for that. Even though we're seeing people find great success with Substack, 4 or 5 million people watching an evening news broadcast.
Tell me how much money Substack is making, and I'm going to tell you that the evening news still makes money.
I was going to say still nothing to sneeze at, because there just aren't many programs where you can still get that sizable
an audience,
several million people watching, whether that's there or
if
in
something
the morning.
happens also. People go to cable. People go to the networks.
Yeah.
Look, I think that the financials may take a long time to catch up. But
do we have that time?
No, because we have to switch while we're doing it.
Yeah.
You have to it's like reinventing a show while the original show has to stay on the air.
Yep.
So the train's moving down the track because you have to deliver every day. But on the other side of the coin, you're inventing the new world order. And, the new editor-in-chief of CBS, Barry Weiss, who invented the free press, to a successful alternative. I think what we are now seeing, and it was interesting because I was talking to somebody on CBS Mornings. I said, look, you're producing a show, 2-hour show every day. That's a lot, and on Saturdays. But you have to now think in terms of, okay, how am I taking the great bits or parts or key things and having them on TikTok and having them on Instagram and having them on YouTube? So whether we hire unique reporters to say, okay, Jericka Duncan did this incredible interview with a victim of Solo, okay? I'm making this up.
Right.
And you've done this for the CBS Morning News or CBS Evenings. You then, either you or a separate reporter would take chunks of that for no more than a minute. And I would say, I'm Susan Zirinsky. If you didn't see it this morning on the CBS Mornings broadcast, you're not going to believe this. This is an accuser of a congressman who stepped down and withdrew from the governor's race. And you have to just hear what this congressman, with this official, did to this woman.
Right.
Play sound, come back. This is the world we're living in. And on the digital side, on the YouTube and everything else, not that you're rendering an opinion, but you can observe the reaction and the reaction to what happened and make an observation. And I'm out in no more than a minute 15. So whether it's the reporter themselves or a whole group of new, young, generationally appealing people who are taking the chunks from every broadcast.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the best parts of what we have broadcast will be on everything, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and Snapchat. And so, what will not happen is the impact. I produced one of the first films of 9/11 with these French brothers.
This
and
is
it
the call
became
911.
911, and it became the penultimate because one of the French brothers, they were profiling a rookie firefighter, and nothing had happened all summer.
Right.
I mean, they had a cooking show virtually because firemen like to cook. So, but they became the document of history. And the first broadcast, 52 million people watched the first broadcast of 9/11, which was March after the September of the attack on the United States. And what I'm saying is, I don't think it will be very difficult, unless it's a sporting event, that you will get that mass audience. So what's the challenge? The challenge is cutting through the cacophony of voices. We're in a tsunami of reporters, of information. How do you break through? How do you become viral? And
by being honest.
By
I
being
think,
honest. I'm not sure that's, I'm not sure.
So there's honesty though, Z, and I feel like there's perspective. And I think what people get turned off on is if we are appearing to push a certain narrative and we're not giving voice to other groups, then we absolutely.
Well, that's opening the aperture.
That has to happen.
So there's two, but there's two levels.
But I think that's always part of the idea, the branding of CBS. I mean, we literally are an eye, right? So I think at least since I've been there, and I've seen now several different administrations, but the idea has always been to be a little bit more inclusive and to tell these unique stories and not just the ones that we're familiar with.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
We've hired a lot of consultants and a lot of digital reporters. And the question I have is, do you need to label someone as, opinion and analysis. And, or,
I thought you were going to say something different, but
well, what did you think I was going to say?
I was going to say, when are we going to start having partnerships with the very people that run ads during the break and I do a little thing called This Is Your News in 30 Seconds on the weekend. What brand wants to sponsor this little 30-second thing to have their little emblem? I'm not even going to name a company.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them the publicity for free.
Right.
But my point is, in my mind, and I'm not an executive, is that something that's being talked about?
There are different forms of integration.
Yeah.
Different forms of integration. Excuse me. And the dilemma we face is somebody who may want to have integration or be sponsoring something. Do they have an agenda?
Yeah.
And do they get to participate in what gets produced?
Yeah.
Therein lies the rub. So
yeah, I think that is definitely a problem.
The economics have strangled, and more people are aggregating other people's content.
Yeah.
And so who survives? Who survives? Where is the money coming from? What's interesting is that the money on the YouTube side, the TikTok side, that doesn't balance out even with the linear or old media, because that's still bringing in, even though it is sinking. It hasn't balanced. Like that, where is that money going from the linear? Is it going into the digital side somewhat?
So the people to me that I feel like are winning most are, while a network will say the ad dollars aren't really there on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram.
YouTube is going to be future.
Not only that, it is there if you're you're one person or even a group of 4 or 5, and you're not looking to feed 800 people from an organization. You get to keep all of that money. I met a woman named Stephanie Sue. This woman is under 30 years old.
I'm writing her name down.
Yeah, was at the New York Times did an article on her during the Diddy trial. First in line, every day. Had one of those, folks out there holding her spot. We would pay as well, but whoever her person was, they must have got there at 3 p.m. the afternoon before.
Slept over.
But the way she tells the story and how she got started, it's fascinating and it's different. And you know who knew who she was when I went home and said, guess who I met? My daughter.
Yes, of course
She's
she
like,
did.
oh my God, you know Stephanie Sue? Oh my gosh.
Now, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was her reporting straight reporting? Was it opinion? Was it absorbing the people's reaction in the court, or was it all of the above?
It was all of the above. And she has a unique way of telling stories. When I would watch her take notes too, Stephanie, if you're listening, I saw you. She would literally color code her notes. And with each note, if she was taking it, you would never see what she's writing after. It's almost like she was guarding her notes.
Secrets.
Yes. So you would watch her take the note, and then she would slide the paper down, and then she would and she was very observant. So as somebody that's curious and observes people, because you wonder, like, what is the secret sauce? What is she doing? But it's how she tells a story. And she just talks for like an hour. And it's her and her husband, and she does have a few people there. I got to know some of the staff that work with her, but she covers cases all over the country.
But it's everything. It's so she is giving opinion. It
can be a little bit of opinion, but a lot of it is more observation. And, the Diddy trial was just this trial that there were so many different things
to surreal.
Think about. It was surreal. And I think to see the amount of TikTokers and influencers and people that covered it, that trial opened my eyes truly to there are people just super serving their audience and making a living off of it.
This is the future. Now, will legacy media die and go off to the great sky in the world and meet Walter up there? I think Walter Cronkite's up in heaven.
We love you, Walter.
I think that we are watching the Industrial Revolution in media, in reporting, because, you used to say, well, but they don't give context and perspective. Well, if you want that, you might go online to The Economist. You might go online to a publication that's going to do more than she is, but I'm telling you that 75% to 80% of the people, I'm making this number up, will want more of what she's serving. And I think that's our evolution as well.
So what does that mean for networks?
I think
because
that
this
the networks
idea
have
of
to
being neutral is just not making money. I think that's
being neutral is not serving the audience because they want context. So what she's doing, while she might not give you an opinion, her observation in the court, people watching, the circuit of the trial, what was being said, who were the witnesses,
how they were saying it,
those observations are actually what the story is about.
And on the train today, I observed 7 people sitting across from me. Every single person was on their phone. Every single person. At what point do you think our live broadcast has to be available on the phone? And is that something that's being talked about?
It's definitely being talked about. And the question will be, can the network, aside from offering entertainment shows or, dramas, movies, can they afford the ability to service news in a linear way? Or is it a combo platter, that it is a bifurcated delivery online, on TikTok? And you know what? Those who want to sit for 22 minutes or however long it is, sit for 22 minutes because they're going to get the digest of the day.
Because you see the clips get put out after the broadcast. And then you see we also put the newscast on streaming at 10 o'clock at night. But then when there's a big event, we do allow people to stream it instantly.
Yes.
I'll get a notification. CBS News is live with, Artemis 2 is a perfect example. Day that it went up, day that it came down, there was an opportunity for people, if they're wherever they were, to
click in. I think the future is being written, but I think we're seeing it. We're seeing it in 2 ways. You're seeing it in somebody observationally covering a big story. You're seeing it whether there's a compilation or an aggregator of groups of stories that then appear on YouTube or TikTok. I think that the next 2 years are going to be critical. But we haven't talked about something that I think is going to change everything: AI. And AI is a fantastic tool, a very good tool. I had to rewrite something in a doc that we were working on, and it was about a court case. And it's 1 a.m, and I'm not the producer. I'm the executive producer. And so I don't have the transcripts or the newspaper articles. So I went to ChatGPT. I put in the name, the case, and I said, here's the information I want to confirm or look for. Up comes within no more than 30 seconds, articles, court transcripts, other audio that people had done pieces on. And from looking at the court transcripts, and it went to the question, the court transcripts were very specific because it was dealing with the issue of who had testified and what that evidence was. That is magic. That is magic. Yes. Are we going to not cross the line and have the AI? We've all toyed with, okay, write a script on Ukraine, have a Putin soundbite, have a Zirinsky soundbite, have a reporter on camera, and have an anchor do a lead-in, and it will do it in less than 2 minutes. So, that's the battle. The real battle is AI and the authenticity of the information. So anybody who is, interested in journalism, which we know is necessary because democracy can't exist without it, we think. Hello, anybody at the White House? But the truth is that no one can be single discipline anymore, and that's what's happening. Like, the one thing that really makes me upset, really upset, is my age, because like I want to be here and active in that pursuit and the formats to deliver news, but news with context, funny, get your attention, and understand what will break through, what will go viral. What will go viral.
I feel like live events, breaking news will and has to continue to be our strong suit.
Yes.
Because that's not something
breaking news,
the person
right,
who's at home can cover in the same way.
I think there's something else that will impact most digital sites, and it's the buying, the licensing of long-term sports deals, which will decrease the money on places like Netflix and even YouTube and all of the other major streamers, because the live sports is now it's like catnip. And so I worry a little bit that there'll be less money to spend on other things. But as the dollars decrease from the normal advertising sales, Procter & Gamble, and all of the traditional linear suppliers of money and advertising, I do absolutely think it'll be cheaper to produce, so the money will come from different areas. Yeah. The thing that we have to be careful of is the person that's buying that series of TikToks, do they have an agenda? Who gets final cut? Who determines what's editorially in it? Or
does everybody have an agenda, though, Z?
A lot of people do.
I mean, let's be honest.
A lot of people do.
And this is why diversity is so important.
Yes. Beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond. That's why, I understand the anti-woke culture, but I also understand mindfulness of the import of introducing the country to itself, which means wider aperture, which means diverse populations, which means someone else's take, because I didn't grow up like that person grew up. But all of this is doable in different forms.
So I want to go back to something, I believe it's Will Hurt said in broadcast news.
Oh.
He was the anchor man. And you know this story very well because
there was a reading
Holly
the
Hunter
other night. Well, there was a reading the other night of the play
there was.
Raise money. The actors are raising money to preserve some historic buildings that they use for the arts. So I was sitting there, listening to them reading the movie. But anyway.
Well, broadcast news, for those that don't recall, 40 years ago, almost, was 1987. It sort of showed this love triangle, but really the rise of a scrappy, small in stature, big in presence, upcoming producer, which Holly Hunter plays. And if I'm correct, she shadowed you for several weeks to understand
much more. And I got to write in it. And
there you go.
Yeah, so it was a big part, and still actually
part of your identity, kind of.
I'm friendly with Holly and James L. Brooks and Albert Brooks and the executive producer. Anyway,
the main anchor.
We digress.
The main anchor in
or who became the main anchor.
The gentleman who became the main anchor in this movie said that he had something you can't teach. How important will that be in the continuation of what it is that we do?
I think that will not be as important because I think that the people who want to be the imparters of information, there's not going to be the money that was.
Yeah.
And so you need to have the moral commitment that this is your passion, this is your mission.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not going to be. There's never going to be a Walter Cronkite. There's never going to be another Walter Cronkite.
And I don't think of it in terms of money. When I heard that line, I remember thinking, this is about connecting with people. And part of the reason for those who are very successful in the podcasting space and the independent journalism space is not only because maybe they're well read and they're discussing things that you really just don't hear on other networks and information that you then want to kind of look up. And I listen to all of it, honestly, because I like to be as informed as possible. But there's something sometimes about them that connects you to them. They feel a little bit more honest and not trying to be the perfect, and I think that's not okay anymore. Like that way of thinking of anchoring or even reporting, it's just not what people want to watch.
You want to feel a connectivity authentic.
Yeah.
You want to feel a connectivity to a person. That's why, there was one person who really wanted to be an anchor on CBS Mornings when I was jettisoned into the presidency when the boys were opening up their bathrobes. A job I didn't really seek, but and this person had a really good reputation, and one of the other anchors really loved this person, and I said, that person's not a real person. That person is a manufactured person. There's nothing organic to that human being when he sits in a chair. And so,
who was it?
I'll never tell. But the dynamics in the next 12 months, in the next 24 months, are going to be so fast, we're just not going to know what the hell hit us.
I'm going to have to wrap it up soon, but I do want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Going back to the movie, there's a moment where a big executive says we've got to cut $24 million from the budget, and a bunch of people are laid off. And there's tears and there's these feelings of I feel horrible, because I get to stay, but I'm watching my friends and colleagues and people that I respect have to pivot and figure it out. What advice are you giving to those who recently have lost their jobs and
I'm talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think it's time because they have no one who I talked to or who I wrote to in the waves. And even when I was president, like I had to dismiss like 132 people. And I actually ended up, even though HR went nuts, I called every single person, even the ones I didn't have to dismiss on my own. And I said, I just need you to know this wasn't about your work, the quality of your brain. This was a sheer numbers game. Sheer numbers game. And I said, if you ever want me to write a letter of recommendation, I'm there. And I did that when I was president. Now I look at somebody and I think, okay, what have you done? And what do you want? If you have a whiteboard, what do you want to write on that whiteboard with that marker?
Right.
Because I think that the quality of people coming out of these jobs, Disney fired 2,000 people the other day. 2,000 people, publicists, marketing strategy.
Of how many employees do they have?
I can't even remember. They have an enormous amount, but 2,000 was a huge number, a percentage.
I just saw something in the Wall Street Journal today about the big layoff. Like this is a time right now where so many companies are laying people off, and one expert even said, if you lay off like 30 to 50% of most companies' workforce, you don't really notice a major difference. And that is scary because I'm like, well, then why would you have all these people there in the first place?
But also it's the technological revolution that really does help. And there was, I'm going to call it, there's a word when you feel you're due something. You owe it to, you're owed. This is like, I have the right to have this many people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? On some of the most fabled broadcasts, there are people that are not productive enough.
Mm-hmm.
That exists. And, a lot of times
I was going to say privilege, but I know what you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue.
It'll come to one of us before the end.
It's what a lot I feel like younger people feel entitled.
Entitled. That's it. Thank you.
We did it.
You feel entitled because it's the way it was, and then the truth is that sometimes you look at a network, a legacy network, those people are not getting on the air enough to justify that salary. They're not. And so therein lies the rub.
Yeah.
So, but people who are really reeling in being dismissed, not because of their work ethic, not because of the quality of their work, you have to think, okay, what's my skill set? How do I adapt that to something that's now growing?
Yeah.
Am I calling ChatGPT to help field questions? Am I going to TikTok to help program? You're looking not for the same job in another company. Leave that on the shelf. You're looking to say, what can I offer that's special in what's going to be the big thing in 5 years?
Rapid fire questions. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Is journalism still better than sex?
Okay, ask me that again.
Oh, come on. We can't do it again. We got to get okay, I'll ask again. You've said this. You've been on record. I've seen it. I've heard it before.
Journalism is better than sex.
Okay.
That's the only one rapid fire question?
No.
Okay, keep going.
You're going to stay with that one. You're going to stick
journalism.
With that. What album are you listening to these days?
I'm listening to Billie Eilish.
Oh.
And I went back to a play called Les Miserables, and I've been listening to the soundtrack of that because it's about fighting a war and the courage and the ability to push forward. Billie Eilish, though, has a tone and a verbiage that I feel are speaking to me now.
Okay. You can't run right now, but what do you do to stay active?
Okay, well, YouTube has everything. So when I have gone through different stages because I've had 3 different surgeries to repair the bike accident I had in Central Park where I broke my tibia plateau and it was a bad break. So I discovered...
that was like 4 years ago, right?
No, 2.5.
2.5 years, okay.
But you know what? I found working out with a broken leg on YouTube from a woman who had a torn meniscus.
Oh.
So she had a 30, 40-minute series where it was from a chair, but it was cardio and strength. And then I was able to do the bike. So there's these great Australian bike things, and I do them with 2-pound weights on my ankles.
Okay.
And then when I had the second surgery, because it impacted the knee, I went through the same thing. With a knee brace and all that. And then I still got into this routine. But the latest surgery, I can't utilize my leg at all for 6 to 8 weeks. So I went back to my woman on YouTube because she has all these different, and I'm doing upper body work every morning. And it's
good.
a 40-mile, it's just, I have to do this. I cannot have a day where I don't exercise.
How do you keep your hair so brown?
I diet every
looks so good.
5 weeks.
It looks good.
And then if I miss or I'm late, there's spray.
Listen,
and I go like this.
These grays are coming in. You can't see it because I have it down. But I'm enjoying like this.
I would not enjoy
like,
gray hair.
Really?
No.
I don't like the texture. It's very coarse and wiry, and it just does something.
My texture didn't change. Okay. So I'm lucky I don't have old people's hair.
It looks great. You've been known to have these black notebooks that you walk around with, and you write so much in
Ledger notebook. I now have 2 notebooks that I actually use.
When is the book coming, and what's in those notebooks?
My notebooks are day to day, what I have to do, notes that I need to remember, But now in the new job with See It Now Studios, when you're meeting people and people are pitching you ideas. So my ledger notebook, which is an actual ledger notebook,
Yep.
I write the day every day. Every page gets one day. Saturday gets half a day page. Sunday gets half a day. And I write things that I'm supposed to do or things that are happening in the day that I need to respond to. But my smaller notebook is for every conversation we have that's pitching, that's bringing something editorial. And then I learned something from a former executive producer on CBS Mornings, a woman named Diana Miller, because she used to use small notebooks, but she tabbed them, those sticky tabs.
Yep.
So I put a date on it. And if I was meeting with Jericka Duncan and she was pitching me an idea, I would say 4/16 Jericka, and then I would do like one word. And so I've kept all of these notebooks. It looks like a Christmas party, but and I don't tend to go back to the conversations because I make a decision. But if I need to, I can go back and remember a question I had. And for me, I'm never the smartest person in the room. So if I write something down,
it sticks with you.
Yeah. When I was in high school and college, I would copy my notebook. I would copy my entire notebook of notes I took in class.
Interesting.
Because that was the way I got it into my brain.
10 years from now, where's network television?
I think network television still exists, but I think it's bisexual.
Bisexual?
It goes down two different paths.
Why you got to make this about sex? First, journalism's better than sex. Now it's going to be bisexual.
Because you're going to pleasure people that want it on linear, which still will exist.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to pleasure the people who have evolved, who are young, who want them, everything in bite size, but then a 30-minute podcast for context and perspective. And where are documentaries going? They're going everywhere.
And I know you've done so many of these over the years, Z. What do you want people to remember most in terms of your leadership? Because to me, I feel like you've done an amazing job of making people feel important and bringing out the best in folks. But how do you
That's
see?
a very nice thing to say.
It's true.
I remember something very specifically. You and I were talking about something, and I had like diet popcorn and I had tea, and you looked at me and you said, I don't think I have ever or will ever again sit in a president's news division office and have tea and popcorn. Do you remember that?
I do. It's true.
Look, I think partly because when I was growing up, I always felt like I struggled. I struggled in school. I just struggled. And that when I got my first job, which was on the weekends answering phones, it wasn't, I don't even think they called it a desk assistant. I saw the value in every job. And I really appreciated people sharing with me. And then also I felt I was seduced by the passion. And so I also really feel that being a human being is so critical in the same way of being good at your job.
Yeah.
And I was fired once by somebody at CBS, but not allowed out of my contract.
That story really quick is hilarious because when that person was then fired, you spit on their desk.
I had their desk, and every night before I left, I spit on it. So it was very satisfying. Actually, somebody called me yesterday, and they said, what's your relationship with this guy? And I kind of laughed, and I said, well, he's the only person that ever fired me, but he then left, and I don't say my name if you're meeting with him.
Oh, wow.
I said, that will not be a good thing.
But you want people to remember you and your legacy to be what?
I want them to think, Diane Sawyer once said, I don't want to be known as the hardest worker. I want to be known as the smartest worker. I actually want to be known as a really hard worker and with a very diverse portfolio that I was able to do multiple jobs, but being a human being, like after I got fired, I take a call from anyone who calls who's been fired. I don't care how well I know them. I will take that call. I did find it amusing when Scott Pelley had me meet with his daughter to help give career advice. I said, why aren't you giving her career advice? He said, she won't take it from me. But I want to be really known as a really good leader, creative, and a great human being.
Yeah.
Because I really value when people call and ask counsel. And, you know, it's ironic because I have issues with my daughter and it breaks my heart. But I get a little bit okay if somebody's calling, and I give I give the same advice when people from opposing sides are calling.
Yeah.
So I'm consistent in my messaging.
We love you, Z.
No.
Thank you.
I love you.
Thank you so much.
You know, I often text you because I'm watching you, and listen, I watch you do 7 versions of the weekend news, you know, for every, I once said to Craig, is this the Guam update?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know,
I'm honored that you asked me.
I appreciate it. And, you know, hopefully I'll keep this going and we'll have to have you back. We can talk more about 48 hours.
Yes.
We can talk more about motherhood and all the things, but
that's, I think that's where I know you don't always impact. I know you can't blame yourself for everything, especially with an adopted child. But I'm like an Iranian who self-flagellates every night. I can't shake it. Can't shake it.
Z, we appreciate you. We really do.
I love you.
Susan Zirinsky, make sure you check out the podcast. Well, you checked out the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. I Am That Reporter. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna subscribe now.
I can't believe you're not already subscribed.
I haven't subscribed.
All right. Thank you.